Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we will call to order, please. Mr. Clerk, do we have a quorum?
Mayor Patterson, we have quorum.
Okay, thank you. So first up is Committee of the Whole closed meeting.
Moved by Councillor Boehm, seconded by Councillor Candon, that Council resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole closed meeting to consider the following item. A proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, land lease at Kingston Norman Rogers Airport.
Please vote. And that carries. Now, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Sego ani buju wachea kwe kwe. As the mayor of the city of Kingston, I offer these words in the spirit of this gathering. Let us bring our good minds and hearts together as one to honor and celebrate these traditional lands as a gathering place of the original peoples and their ancestors who were entrusted to care for Mother Earth since time immemorial. It is with deep humility that we acknowledge and offer our gratitude for their contributions to this community, having respect for all as we share the space now and walk side by side into the future. So we were just meeting in Committee of the Whole closed meeting. We discussed one item. It was with respect to a land lease at the Kingston Norman Rogers Airport. So I will ask for a motion to rise without reporting, please.
Moved by Councillor Boehm, seconded by Councillor Turner, that Council rise from the Committee of the Whole closed meeting without reporting.
Please vote. And that carries. Next, we will move to approval of the addits. We will approve both sets of addits together. So one is, we have an amendment of Clause 5 in report number 40. We have the addition of item 10. And we also have a motion of condolence, an item of miscellaneous business, and some communications. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Sanik, seconded by Councillor Turner. Please vote. And that carries. Okay, on to disclosures of potential pecuniary interest. Councillor McLaren.
Thank you. I, Jeff McLaren of the Corporation of the City of Kingston, declare my pecuniary interest in the matter of Clause 1, Report number 43, due to Legal and Integrity Commissioner advice that I may have a conflict due to rental property I own in close proximity.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor George.
Thank you, Your Worship. I, Kevin George of the Council of the Corporation of the City of Kingston, declare my pecuniary interest in the matter of Clause 2, Report number 43, as I am associated with one of the applicants.
Okay, are there any other declarations? Councillor George.
I was wondering, Your Worship, if I may just have a few moments to say a few words. I wanted to take this opportunity to apologize to my colleagues on council and members of the public for a gesture that I made at the last meeting of council. I think, as Councillor Stroud put it at the meeting, it was very tense and emotional situation we got ourselves into, but I did make a gesture that I feel now is uncalled for, and I do wish to publicly apologize for that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we will move on. We have no presentations this evening, but we do have several delegations. So first we'll invite Matt Benson, Chair of the Board of Directors of Sustainable Kingston Corporation, who will appear before Council to speak to Clause 1 of Report Number 41 from the CAO regarding the service level agreement with Sustainable Kingston Corporation. And again, just a reminder to all of our delegations that you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor Patterson and councillors. Thank you for giving us an opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Matt Benson. I'm the chair of Sustainable Kingston. I've brought a couple board members with me who are happy to be here as well. So, given that we only have 5 minutes tonight, I can't talk about all the exciting things that this organization is doing, but I can focus on a few of the key points. As some of you may know, our mission is to enhance the livability and resiliency of Kingston, and we do this both by sharing knowledge and providing resources to those that are engaged in sustainable efforts, and by running programs ourselves that drive community action. Our strategic plan, which we're partway through implementing, has really 4 key objectives. We want to become the knowledge center of sustainability. We want to develop and implement a system for measuring and reporting on sustainability and efforts. We want to successfully encourage and assist businesses in our community that are engaged in sustainability to help them achieve a higher degree of sustainability in their operations. And we want to support the community in learning about sustainability and share knowledge. You may be familiar, I'm sure, with the Sustainable Kingston plan. We are tasked with implementing that plan, and we've taken that plan and distilled it into 6 priority areas that range from climate and environmental issues to more cultural issues. And we report annually on our efforts and the successes in the community in achieving some of those goals. Our latest report came out in December 2017. So some of our recent successes, our current staff were actively engaged in applying for and securing a substantial fund, one that's been celebrated here, where we're going to be receiving $400,000 over the course of 3 years to basically take the program that we've very effectively run in Kingston. We're up to 29 members now that are actively working to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions. And we've been recognized as having a relatively small community that's running one of these organizations, but in terms of the members and the achievements we've had, we're hitting well above our per capita relevant load. So we want to take these successes we've been recognized, and we're going to be expanding that and growing it into neighboring communities of Belleville and Brockville, and sort of continuing the success of what is truly a global problem by focusing on regional activities. These are our current members. As you can see, they include some of the most significant contributors to sustainability efforts in our community. I don't have time to walk through them all, but I've included it here for your reference. Last year, we hosted our first evening of recognition. This event was really the brainchild of Brian Dodo, who's one of our board members. It was a highly successful event. We had in excess of 200 guests. Every seat was filled. We celebrated successes of some of our members, such as those on the prior slide, and it was extraordinarily well received by those in the room. I don't know if any of you were there, but I would certainly encourage you to attend the upcoming event that'll be going on this May, that we're well into the planning activities on. And our city staff member, Julie Salter-Keene, was instrumental in facilitating a partnership between Sustainable Kingston and the City of Kingston to host the Kingston Climate Change Symposium, which was another banner event that we had earlier this year. Also a very highly well-received event. It was a call to action in the community to try to drive climate change issues and begin discussions and continue discussions that are happening in the community. We had Roberta Bondar, Canada's astronaut, there speaking. We had Brent Todarian, David Phillips, all of which gave very evocative and very interesting speeches on these topics that we've now brought into our boardroom, and it helps shape our thinking of what this organization should be focusing its efforts on going forward. And I would say that these two banner events that we've hosted, and we continue to host similar such events, are contributing to positioning Kingston and Sustainable Kingston as sustainable leaders.
30 seconds.
The service level agreement we're looking for today is to provide funding for a dedicated priority area staff to help drill deeper into the efforts that were our sustainable efforts within Kingston, to continue to implement the Sustainable Kingston plan and continue having these connections among the sustainable leaders in our community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from council? Councillor Sanik.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for that. And one of the events that you feature in the Sustainable Kingston operating plan is Pitch in Kingston, and I believe that this is the week for Pitch in Kingston. So despite the snow, or as long as the snow starts to melt, is Pitch in Kingston still going on? How do people get involved with Pitch in Kingston? Because this is our one time of trying to clean up all the litter on our streets.
Thank you for your question. Pitching Kin, for those of you that may not be familiar with the program, it's a very interesting program. It's there. It taps into the environmental stewardship and the community activities and objects of our corporation. But we are engaged in. To answer your question, this isn't the ideal week for this to be happening, but I know that the staff have been out there actively engaged. When we can, the board members go out and join them. We distribute bags. We distribute so that people can go around their own communities and clean up garbage and try to clean up the community. So there are those initiatives going on right now. And if you want to get involved in it, I would encourage you to either contact me or to contact Sustainable Kingston.
Councillor Osthoff.
Thank you, Harrison. The question I have really is, I don't know enough about you. I think it's a great organization. I like everything I've seen and heard. And I just wonder, can you share with me and I'm not that aware, like how do you speak into situations and like, let's say with all the different tiers, the silos of Kingston, you know, the planning and future, and how do you speak into that? Give me an example of where you are making a difference in what you know, and how do you impart that to all the different departments in development and in the future? Like, what are some of the things that you are already on and some things happening out there?
Okay, some of the initiatives that we have ongoing right now is we host events that I've talked about that are there to bring together people in the sustainable space, help them learn from each other. We help facilitate those discussions. We will be approached by individuals that have ideas for how they're going to contribute to the community. Recently, we had somebody come in that wanted to create a distribution system for local food and wanted some ideas on how to do that. So we'll connect them with the people that we have in our network to try to help facilitate those discussions. We are actively engaged in programs such as the Sydenham Street Revival, where we, a couple years ago, we took Sydenham Street and created it into a green space for a period of time as a pilot program to try to see how that would be received in the community, how we can sort of rethink some of our urban spaces. I'm not sure if I've answered your question or not.
No, thanks. Yeah, I see that in a smaller sense. So as far as development of the official plan and direction, that's more high-level stuff. So you don't get involved in those kind of
No,
things.
we're not involved in the development of the official plan, only to the extent that we would be consulted and we would provide our input and our knowledge in that area.
Thank you.
Councillor.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. So on the goal of reducing greenhouse gases, and I guess just sort of picking up on Councillor Oosterhoff's point, or your response regarding how you bring organizations together, I'm just curious, I have an example, and I'm wondering how this fits in. So today I was at a meeting regarding commuter traffic, students being dropped off at schools, and students in this sort of congestion and all the problems associated with that. So in that example, we have the school boards, we have tricolor busing, we have municipal officials, and also public health that is really keen on introducing more active transportation in the schools. So can you sort of provide a bit of an overview in terms of how you could relate to, just as you, not necessarily relating to that example, but how you would be bringing together organizations to address some of these challenges in an ongoing way through whatever levels of funding you're receiving?
I think sustainable transportation is one of our areas of focus. I know that we've made big inroads in this city in terms of our busing initiatives, and we had a green bike program, for example, that the city was running that we were involved with. In terms of how to facilitate those sort of discussions, if you have individuals that are interested in pursuing transportation initiatives, more active transportation, we would want them to contact us, and so that we can gain a better understanding of what it is that they're looking for specifically. But we have good connections with other individuals that are likely in that space, and so we might set up coffees with them or have them into our space, which is downtown Kingston, to facilitate a discussion, see if we can help them reach their goals together.
But in terms of sort of ongoing project like that, for example, if it was an active transportation plan in a school, is it, so then the role is to bring people together and assist? I guess I'm just curious, is there funding or staff resources available to continue on, to continually support a project like that? Or is it more to initiate those kinds of projects in the community and then have them be self-sustaining?
It's actually both. In some circumstances, and if you take the green economy program as an example, what we did there is we saw what we perceived as a gap. Loving Spoonful, for example, is doing a great job in food security. There are other areas within this community where people are doing a fantastic job, and so our role in those circumstances is not to go in necessarily and run a program of our own, because we have scarce resources, we don't have unlimited staff, and we have to focus on our efforts on what we collectively as a board see as the areas that we can make a contribution that isn't already being adequately satisfied by somebody else. So in the case of the green economy program, there wasn't anybody going around encouraging businesses to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions, helping them monitor the progress that they were doing. So we play an active role there. We meet with them, we consult with them, we see how they can change their policies around lighting programs, that sort of thing, and then we actively track their progress on a month-to-month basis. We meet with them, and then at the end of the year, we celebrate their successes with them. So we're actively involved in a program like that. The Sydenham Street Revival Program was one where we said, nobody's doing this, we need to do this. But in circumstances such as transportation, where there may already be people that are engaging in this, in a very engaged capacity, we would try to connect those people. And if over time it seemed like there was a gap there, then we might try to fill that gap too, recognizing the scarcity of the resources.
Okay, so no other Councillor Strout.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for the presentation. My question has to do with trees. I noticed in the report it covers a lot of ground in sustainability, and it's pretty impressive. The number of different issues that you're monitoring, and as you just explained, it's sometimes taking an active role, sometimes a monitoring role. Someone's looking at the big picture, someone is looking for gaps. This is really encouraging. I really like the advocacy work that your group is doing. I just have a specific question about trees. So chapter 1 of this report talks about climate action, and it says something that nobody can argue with about climate change, one of the most significant threats to our quality of life. Talks about Kingston's carbon footprint and reducing that everybody understands that, reducing, right? But what about the role of trees in carbon sequestration and the ongoing initiative that we started here at Council to double the tree canopy? How come that's not included in this picture?
Thank you for your question. I'm not sure I have a good answer. I think it's an initiative that maybe we should talk about. It's something that we might be able to get more involved in. I think for the time being, I would need to learn more about it and talk to the staff about it. But I completely agree that planting trees is an important initiative, and it's something that is worth having a discussion about. It's not something we're currently doing, but we're not servicing every possible area of sustainability. We have to be selective because we have only the staff that we have and the funding that we have.
Okay, questions?
Thank you.
We'll move on to our second delegation now. Patricia Enright, Chief Librarian and CEO of the Kingston Frontenac Public Library, and Claudette Richardson, Chair of the Kingston Frontenac Public Library Board, will appear before Council to speak to Clause 1 of Report Number 42 from the CAO, Consider, regarding Kingston East Library options.
I'd like to introduce Claudette Richardson, who is our chair. I always seem to forget to do that when we're here, so thank you. So Mayor Patterson, members of council, members of the community, and staff, thank you for this opportunity to speak to Report 42 regarding the expansion of library service in East Kingston. So in 2004, the Library Board undertook a branch services review to identify a new facility model and to make recommendations concerning future development of library facilities in Kingston Frontenac over the next 20 years to 2026. So the branch services review noted that in 2004, East Kingston, with 0.29 square feet of library space per capita, had less space than the other urban areas at 0.59 square feet of local library space per capita. So to meet the planning standard of 0.5 square feet per capita, East Kingston required immediately an additional 3,000 square feet and a further 2,800 square feet to serve the population growth until 2026. So in total, by 2026, East Kingston should have about 10,000 square feet of library space. The branch services review recommended the expansion of the Pittsburgh branch in the period 2009 to 2014, but because of other emergent facility issues and opportunities, service expansion in East Kingston was moved forward in the planning and budget cycles. In October 2017, the city asked that the construction of a library branch as part of the Kingston East Community Centre be considered. A budget of $4.6 million for the project was added to the library's capital request for 2018. As noted in Report 18-123, this amount was a high-level estimate in the absence of final information on the selected expansion option. And the intent was to ensure that there would be budget available to proceed with the service expansion fairly quickly should the new community center be selected as the preferred option. In November 2017, the Library Board engaged Schultz and Zabak architects to look at options for expansion of services, and 4 options were considered and are detailed in the attached assessment report. Feedback from the community was sought through an online and paper survey between November 3rd and November 30th, 2017, and an open house was held on November 15th at the Pittsburgh branch. So we had 39 people attend the open house and 57 people submitted survey forms. The response was fairly balanced, with 28 people wanting the library to remain at the current site and renovate or expand. 25 people supported moving the library to the Kingston East Community Centre, and 2 people suggested alternate sites. Concern was expressed for the future of the current library building if the library were to move, and comments were also made about the need to expand library hours at the branch. In February 2018, the Library Board approved a motion requesting Council to consider 2 options. One, inclusion of the library branch in the Kingston East Community Centre, and option 2, expansion and renovation of the existing Pittsburgh branch. The Kingston East Community Centre option has an initial cost of approximately $5.159 thousand, an additional $559,000 to the $4.6 million approved in the 2018 capital budget. This cost does not include changes that would be required to the community center concept plans, the introduction of a second level, as well as the additional community engagement. And the asset management costs over the next 30 years have been estimated at $855,000. And the yearly operational costs have been estimated at $50,400. Option 2, the expansion and renovation of the existing Pittsburgh branch library, has an initial capital cost of approximately $5,435,000, and this cost includes the renovation and rehabilitation of the existing building. The asset management costs have been estimated at $1,278,000, and this option has the highest asset management costs due to the extensive ongoing maintenance required to the heritage building. The operational costs are estimated at $76,800. The Library Board's current strategic plan, KFPL Vision 2020, calls for difference-making spaces where residents come together to discover, explore, create, and read. And the Kingston Public Library Board appreciates the ongoing support of Council in enabling the library to achieve its vision for its library branches and for considering the expansion of library service in East Kingston.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions from Council? Councillor Schell.
Mayor Patterson, this actually will be a fun decision because both ways we're going to get more library space, whichever way we go. I just have a question about the yearly operational costs. They seem really low, to me anyway. So is the $50,400 is for expanding into the community center, and $76,800 is the existing library. What are the operating costs in that?
Oh, through you, Your Worship. So the operating costs would be staff as well as kind of building costs, so utilities, things like snow clearing. So those would be those costs.
You must do it in a very efficient way because that does seem pretty low. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other questions, very much. Thank you. And we will move to our third and final delegation. Brad Brennan, President of the Limestone Boat and Board Club, will appear before Council to speak to Clause 1 of Report Number 44 from the Arts, Recreation and Community Policies Committee with respect to partnership with the Limestone Boat and Board Club for a community small craft club and facility in Rotary Park.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. City Council and everybody from the public here who has joined us. Our board members are also here, including a past president of the Rotary Club. I'd like to take a little bit of time to explain what we do, and the brief that was in your package was absolutely terrific and very thorough. We're a small not-for-profit boat club, approximately 40 full-time members, and we've serviced 450 or so public in the last 2 years alone through free public education, water sports, and development. We want to talk about a joint public partnership between the City of Kingston and our club. Right now we're in a current location where we cannot actually get to the water safely. We traverse kind of 30 feet worth of steel grated staircase. It's not really something that's easy to carry with a boat, and especially when we have younger members of our club who are here who are carrying boats and stuff like that, it's not really conducive to great operations. It's not something that we can expand with. So we're here to offer our assistance, our revitalization of Rotary Park, and to partner with you in making that revitalization one that is thorough, complete, and exciting for the community. We're bringing to the table more than $150,000 worth of value. I've briefly explained in this presentation, we're going above and beyond what was outlined in the Waterfront Master Plan. There was approximately $340,000 that were allocated in 2016 money for that. We would like to improve upon that. Boat shed, docks that are accessible. We currently have a motorized lift that we can't use on our docks because we can't get the lift actually to the dock where people actually need it. In mentioning, after our report was brought forward from the Parks and Recreation Committee, we actually had builders in the community come forward and said, what do you need? What do you have as a laundry list of things that you need to contribute within that $150,000 that we were committing? And firm commitments from the building community that said, what do you need? We'll provide it at the time that you actually need it. So at this current time, we actually have most of the things that were outlined in the plan actually committed to us. So we're in a place where we can actually go ahead with a lot of the upgrades and things that were in that $350,000 or $150,000 commitment that we were making. We want to make this a great, vibrant kind of a neighborhood activity. That one of our core beliefs was our stewardship. One of the examples that we had was a Wild About Sport program for kids, creating good global citizens, creating good stewards for our parks is something that we firmly believe in, and teaching that education through sport is one wonderful way of doing that. We chose two quotes. One is Marty Rubin's quote, "The parks and playgrounds are the soul of a city." And he was the one who, back in the 80s, created the idea of boiling a frog nice and slowly. He wouldn't get out of the pot. We want to make these changes the most impactful changes that we can possible. And with your cooperation and moving that Waterfront Master Plan forward with our additional support, we can really take that whole Rotary Park, revitalize it, change it into a real big destination that we can use for the whole public, the whole community. And obviously I like the one about paddling a canoe as a source of enrichment and inner renewal, because it is. So I welcome your questions. We're here to be partners with the community. We're ready to go. We're committed. We have the ability to raise funds. We're really kind of giddy about it because today we just found out from the Ministry of Culture and Tourism that we received a $50,000 grant for our youth paddle sports. We're just looking for a really good home, and this is a great opportunity for everybody. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Councillor Stroud.
Yep, thank you for the presentation. In many ways, it's sort of self-explanatory what the proposal is, and I sit in the committee that received your proposal there, and it passed at the committee, and I was one of the ones in favor. I've received since then just a simple question from a constituent about what it represents sort of from their perspective, and as I just thought I'd pass on that question. So if successful, and if you're up and running at Rotary Park, which obviously, as you say, would help revitalize the space and bring some life to what goes on there at the water. If you're a member of the public and you're not a current member of the club, what use could you get out of the facility when created? Like, would you have to become a member, and how hard is that, and what does that entail? Or are there other options for a member of the public to partake of the proposed plans?
No, it's a great question. One that we've thought of quite a bit. And it goes back into our planning 2 or 3 years ago when we started talking with planners at the city. First off, the dock is a public accessible dock, with the Waterfront Master Plan having accessible pathways that actually are graded to make ease of transportation from the parking lot that's currently there down to the parking lot, from the parking lot area past the pavilion and down to the docks. The accessible ramp, which makes it easy for people general public, obviously, to use. Docks are free, open, maintained for the public use, maintained by our organization. They're accessible height, so they're also easy to get in and out of for people of all ages. Our overall plan includes a kayak accessible thing, so if somebody has a wheelchair or accessible canes or whatnot, being able to get onto the dock. One of those modes of transportation for people with disabilities is on the water, especially canoe kayak, because they aren't using their legs. So to have a kayak or canoe launch that's actually there that allows them to transfer from a wheelchair into a kayak launch and recover themselves from that and then back onto the dock, again, wheel themselves out from there and then back up again to the public. That's not something that is closed to them at all. We want to have outdoor storage for canoes and kayaks as well. So if somebody wants to come down, it's going to be a nice couple days overnight, just like you would park a car or a bicycle and lock it up. You can park and leave your bike or your canoe or your kayak overnight for those kind of things. So much like the Rideau Trail has those kind of facilities that are open to public access, that's what we want to have for that.
Okay, just to sum up, to be clear, if a friend of mine has a canoe or a kayak and a lock and a chain, they can bring it down there on their car and use the accessible low docks to get in the water, have a nice paddle, and then lock it up there overnight at the end of the day and come back the next day.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Senek.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks for the president. I love paddle boarding, and this is going to be an exciting project, but it will take some time to raise the funds. So for this summer, you're still going to be based behind the Legion on Bath Road. Is that true? And will you still be offering the Water Safety Board clinics? And anyone who wants to get involved, they should probably go to your website and, you know, become a member and join those. Like, you'll have the summer camps again this year too.
Yeah, great question, Councillor Senek. We do have our website is there, limestonebbc.com. We are currently operating there. We do have a land use agreement with the Legion for as long as they're able to welcome us there. They've been terrific with us. We would like to move to a place that's accessible in any scale or capacity as soon as possible. We do have docks that are floatable and movable and all those kind of things, so we are ready to move whenever that is appropriate to be moved. But right now we are continuing to plan to be there as long as we need to be. But as we said, we have firm commitments from the building community to do our half of the project that isn't part of the waterfront master plan necessarily. So should we have a land use agreement going forward that does allow us to do our component of the phased plan, then it is something that we are prepared to move forward with should we be requested to by the city.
Okay, seeing no other questions, thank you very much. Okay, so we have no other delegations this evening. We do have one briefing. Paige Agnew, Director of Planning, Building and Licensing Services, will brief council with respect to information report number 1 regarding Bill 139, the Building Better Communities and Conserving Watersheds Act 2017 and Inclusionary Zoning.
Good evening, thank you. So I'm here this evening with my colleague Laura McCormick. I think she knows some members of council, but she has just returned from maternity leave, and thank goodness in time for this legislation, because it's been hundreds of pages of reading and trying to get up to speed in a very short period of time. So I'm going to do my best to explain to you in the next 10 minutes hundreds of pages of legislation and what I think are the most important pieces for you to understand. Happy to take questions. We will provide a copy of the presentation to council following the meeting, and there is the information report to follow later in the agenda. So Bill 139, the background to it generally is that it has been in process for about the period of a year. It did come into effect on April 3rd, and as of that date, it's now a piece of legislation that we are bound to deal with. So anything related to, from a transition perspective, appeals that were submitted before April 3rd, 2018, those will continue under the previous Ontario Municipal Board process, and anything after that will now follow through the local planning advisory tribunal. So in terms of the Bill 139 intentions, there were a number of intentions that the policy group through the province were setting. Primarily, they wanted to look at opportunities to create more municipal control in the land use planning process. They wanted to be able to look at ways to strengthen community voices related to land use planning decisions, to look at more protection over the public interest. The local planning appeal tribunal, and I'll refer to that as LPAT, that would replace the Ontario Municipal Board system with a more modernized process and ideally create less adversarial hearings. And it would also create a body that would help to administer cost-effective support to the public if they wanted to go through an appeals process, and that has been established through this process. So there are a number of changes that have been made from the Ontario Municipal Board to the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal. So number 1, it repealed the previous OMB Act, so that doesn't exist anymore, and now it's been replaced with the LPAT legislation, so that is now in effect. There are new rules of practice and procedure that have been established through this legislation with the intent of providing the best opportunity for fair, just, and fast resolution. There's changed mandate that has been established related to official plan amendments, zoning bylaw amendments, and non-decisions for plans of subdivision, and I'll get into that in greater detail. There are now mandatory case management conferences, and there's more of an active role for the LPAT related to alternative dispute resolution. So that's a term that was brought in through Bill 73. We talked about that last summer, but as a municipality, we haven't engaged in that to a large degree. But what that is it's an alternative mechanism that a municipality can engage in instead of going through a hearing. And through this process, it was greater refined to put some more parameters in place so that the LPAT can examine a witness. It can have time limits imposed on witnesses and parties to help expedite that process. There's now a requirement for an enhanced municipal record, and I think that the two things to recognize from this related to members of council is this now can record or include video and audio recordings of meetings, so meetings that take place, decisions at planning committee in particular, and decisions or deliberations of council related to planning matters are now and can form part of the municipal record if an appeal is filed. All the hearings may be done through electronic means. So we had an appeal a week ago. The board record was 2,500 pages. So that's something that as a municipality, we have to photocopy and prepare a board record of 2,500 pages. Now through this new system, they have electronic submission. There's also new tests in terms of the validity of the notice of appeal. So when the previous municipal board would receive an appeal, that process has changed with the new LPAT and what they're required to look at in terms of saying whether an appeal is valid. So as part of the new work, the LPAT is required to dismiss any appeals that don't meet what they call the new tests, and I'll talk about that, and that's an important change. There's a new decision procedure as well. So more autonomy for local decisions, ability for council to reconsider if the LPAT determines that council's made a decision that doesn't meet the tests. So we've tried to assemble a flow diagram to break down what this could look like, and this is one iteration, so there would be multiple iterations depending on the type of appeal. So this process in particular relates to the appeal of a decision of an official plan amendment or zoning bylaw amendment. So you'd have the appeal tribunal at the top. As part of the validation process, like I said, we'd be speaking to looking at the tests that have to be established, and the LPAT could determine at that point and has to determine whether or not the appeal that's being filed meets those tests. If not, it can dismiss the appeal. And then it goes through a mandatory case conference, which in this case, in the old system, that would be more referred to as the pre-hearing. And then it goes on either through a channel of mediation or hearing, depending on what is decided. It goes into a decision period. If the decision of the LPAT is that the land use planning decision that was made by the municipality doesn't meet the tests, it then goes over to number 7 on the chart. And that's where the LPAT would refer decision back to council to reconsider. And council will have 90 days to reconsider the land use planning decision that was made and also host another public meeting. So it's an opportunity, and that's where the building in the greater deference for the municipal process is built into the system to give municipalities a second chance to reconsider a decision before a final decision is made. So the new test 1, and this is if council approves an official plan amendment or zoning bylaw amendment and it's appealed. So now under the new system, every appellant must explain and demonstrate how the adopted or approved amendment is inconsistent with the provincial policy statement or fails to conform to the official plan. And the LPAT is under the statutory legislation to look at dismissing any appeal that doesn't meet this test. So that's a very important consideration. Under the old system, that did not take place. New test number 2 is if council refuses an amendment to an official plan or zoning bylaw or fails to make a decision on one of those applications or a plan of subdivision and it's appealed. So in that situation, the person who appeals it first has to say how the existing policies or provisions of the official plan or zoning bylaw are inconsistent with the provincial policy statement or fails to conform with the official plan. And secondly, how the requested amendment to the official plan or zoning bylaw conforms and are consistent with higher order planning instruments, which is the provincial policy statement. So there's a higher level of rigor that's required to demonstrate why an appeal is valid. And that's part of what the LPAT's new role is to make that determination. And that's what we call the validity of the appeal. So again, as I've stated, the LPAT is under statutory obligation to dismiss any appeal that fails to meet the tests. There's been some changes as well to the timelines for council decisions. The column on the far right would give you the timelines related to what they were under the Ontario Municipal Board process. Now, with the new legislation under Bill 139 for official plan amendments, there's 210 days, which was 180 days before. For combined applications, again, 210 days. And for zoning bylaw amendments, 150 days, from which was before 120 days. This is also a great addition as well, is that there's structures in place now to give timelines related to the LPAT making decisions. The way the Ontario Municipal Board has functioned in the past is that there was no timeline imposition related to a written decision. Under the new system, for zoning bylaw amendments, official plan amendments, the first decision or failure has to be determined within 10 months. For a new decision, it's 6 months. For a plan of subdivision, it's 12 months. And then for all other appeals, it's 6 months. And those timelines are going to be imposed. One of the other key changes related to this legislation is some exemptions that were created. So in particular, any official plan update, which as a municipality we're required to do every 10 years, we just did ours in 2017, where the minister is the approval authority, which it is in our case, those amendments are not able to be appealed. After a new secondary plan is in effect, no amendments within 2 years unless council passed a motion to allow that to take place. And also with respect to an interim control bylaw, it's not appealable within the first year, but the public can appeal an extension to interim control bylaw, and those are new things that have changed from what the legislation was before. So the Local Planning Appeal Support Center, this is the independent body that's been funded by the province to assist with the LPAT process. The head office has been established in Toronto. They're currently in the process of staffing this new independent body. And what it's mandated to do is to provide free and independent information on land use planning, guidance on tribunal procedures, and advice or representation. So we've provided the contact information. This was established as a resource to assist people that are going through an appeal process, and it's provided free, so any member of the public can access support through the LPACS. So just in terms of the staff work that we've done to date, we've been doing a lot of review against past legislation and current practice to understand what we needed to change. We had to do a lot of work to change all of our notices, our report templates, to make sure that all of the language in there is consistent with the new changes in the Planning Act and the Ontario regulations which implement the Planning Act. We've also been working to look at making sure that staff are asking for the required information that has to come in as part of the new test to make sure that applicants understand how they have to make submissions related to the new test, and that factors into how staff reviews planning applications going forward. And we're also in the process right now of developing education and training opportunities for stakeholders, for community members, to help them understand, since there have been substantial changes, to try to help the community transition. And of course for our staff as well, a lot of training, understanding the new requirements under Bill 139. So I'm happy to take questions now. We do have an information report that's on the agenda that has a lot more technical information, but happy to take any questions at this time.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Councillor Stroud.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Ms. Ag, for a fascinating presentation and for the hard work your department has done with this new legislation. Simple question, I'm sure, is on the tips of the tongues of many residents that have had anything to do with planning applications, and that's by no means the majority of residents, but the ones that have. They're going to ask about any of the current files, how the cutoff is between the grandfathering and the new process. So I know April 1st or April 3rd. So is it from the appeal date only? Is that the only consideration for which rules to follow?
That's correct.
Okay, so it's very simple. Whenever the appeals and if the appeal is valid under the old system and is made before April 3rd, it doesn't matter what the new legislation says.
Correct. So any appeals, and through you, Patterson, any appeals that were filed prior to the new legislation coming in, those will continue to move under the Ontario Municipal Board process as it was previously known. Anything related to appeals filed after that go under the new LPAT system. So the piece that we're trying to understand as a municipality as well, and as we do understand it, because there are new timelines imposed related to decisions with the LPAT, those new hearings will actually start to bump things that are in the queue related to the old Ontario Municipal Board system.
Sorry, just what you just said. Because the new timelines are shorter, which I assume is partly to encourage a more efficient process so that with the decisions coming quicker, that the municipalities and developers can waste less time, essentially. With that happening, some of the older appeals will actually move further back because they're not constrained by those new rules. Is that right?
Correct. So that was filed probably that maybe hasn't been assigned a pre-hearing or a hearing date will now have to be contending for time with the new LPAT appeals. So an important thing for council to understand is that the name of this is actually a little misleading when it refers to a local appeal tribunal. There's nothing actually local about the structure. The people that will be presiding over the hearings are the same people that would have presided under the Ontario Municipal Board hearings. They're all seated not in Kingston. They're seated by a larger provincial body. So that's important to understand, is that there's that element of local is not built into the way this new system has been implemented.
Councillor Shaw.
You've cleared up wonderful, especially the word about local being a little distracting, because I'm sure some people thought it was going to be right in Kingston. There were mention about the support center is for members of the public who may want to file an appeal. Is that correct? And is that to help them not have to hire a lawyer? Is that sort of the thinking behind that?
Thank you, and through you. Yes, I believe it is intended to be a resource to help people that don't necessarily have the means to be able to provide the appeal information as per the prescribed tests, and to understand what goes into it and be able to receive some of that information to help them through the process.
Thank you. And if someone, say 2 months ago, filed an OMB appeal, will they be able to change and ask for it to be determined through an LPAT? Or if before April 3rd, that's it, it's OMB?
Yes, thank you, and through you. So I believe the way the transitional clauses have been written, they're quite black and white. So if the appeal was filed before, it's under the old system. After April 3rd, new system.
And are they expecting to have enough LPAT groups that things won't be as slow as the OMB? Is that what I'm hearing, that it's now mandated that this is all going to be a much speedier process?
Yes, thank you, and through you. So it is certainly intended to be. That is the intention, is to provide something that's expedited, that's more predictable in terms of the timing associated. When you look at the LPAC SC website right now, they're actively recruiting for a ton of staff. So I believe that they're trying to make sure they're properly resourced to be able to meet the timing requirements that are legislated, yes.
Great, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Neal.
Thank you. I know in my experience over the last several years that sometimes we get OMB appeals from one developer, I think in an attempt to slow down a competitor's development. Would those kinds of things be something that the new system, upon fairly quick reflection, would potentially dismiss that?
That's a good question. So again, looking at the new tests that have been established. So in that type of scenario, and Laura, correct me if I'm wrong, the appellant has to demonstrate. So the way that the current system worked with the Ontario Municipal Board, what was required of an appellant was just to state reasons why they're appealing it. This applies a whole new level of rigor where you need to understand the higher level planning policies, you have to understand your local planning policies, and you have to be able to go through and make a planning argument about how the decision is inconsistent with those documents. So it's not, I don't like it or I don't think it's good planning. You actually have to get into making the planning argument. And for that reason, that's why the Resource Center, I think, has also been jointly established, because it requires much more detailed information to be able to support the appeal.
And currently, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but currently we have faced some OMB appeals around the timing limits that were given. So, and in some of those cases, correct me if I'm wrong, it's been a case of we've requested certain information from the developers, which wasn't forthcoming, and then we were appealed to the OMB for missing that timeline. Will the new system in any way, and I agree it's a misnomer calling it local, but is there any way that the new system will avoid that kind of issue? Will we be more demanding in getting full submissions and making sure that we don't have to ask for 12 more pieces of information and then be told that we missed a timeline?
Right, so as of the process, and I'll do my this, there are extended timelines for municipalities to make decisions, but if a planning application was to be stalled in that process for whatever reason and the timeline lapses for which council has legislated for that decision, this piece here under new test 2, this is what the appellant has to do related to the existing policies of the official plan and the zoning, and saying how they're inconsistent with the provincial policy statement and how they don't conform to the official plan. And then again, looking at how what's being requested is consistent. So I don't believe that as part of any of the consideration, that timing element or missing information is a factor in whether or not the appeal is allowed to proceed or not. Laura, please correct me if I'm wrong.
And there was some concern expressed about a number of developers kind of putting forward OMB appeals in order to go before the OMB rather than the new tribunal. I guess my question is, are there many of those that will tie up our planning, our planners to go through the slower OMB process?
To the best knowledge, we did receive a few appeals, non-decision appeals that came in right before the April 3rd transition piece, but it wasn't a substantial number. I believe it was 2.
Thank you.
Thank you. And through the slides made reference to something being more fair and just.
Yep.
What, could you give an example of that? I just wasn't sure what it really entailed.
I think really what they're trying to get to is to ensure that the most amount of information is submitted upfront, that's available to staff and to the public to make decisions that meet those tests or show the demonstration of how those tests are being met. In terms of the just piece, I think with the greater deference to local decision making and the ability for council to have a second crack at a decision rather than something being imposed by a third body, I think there's some thought in that. Also relative to the additional resources that have been made available to this process to assist with anybody being able to appeal should they want to, so there aren't impediments to participation in that process. I think those are the things that they're focusing on. And the faster resolution is that there are imposed timelines when there have never been before.
Okay, Is mediation new, or was that always there?
There has been mediation that's been available in the past, and some of that came in with Bill 73. It's not something that this municipality has had a lot of experience in to date. It does involve the agreement of both parties coming to the table with the understanding that there will be some type of common ground that's established, and oftentimes people aren't open to that. They just want to go through the appeal process.
Okay, and last question. The people have made reference, I'm not sure if it's true or not, that local council will have more of a say in what happens. But it's also alluding up here that it's going to apply more to planning matters, and some of those things are completely separate at times depending on what council decides. Is there truth to the fact that there's going to be more power given to local municipalities through councils in their decision making, or is that inaccurate? I've heard that a few times.
I think that's definitely one of the key intentions that was set out from the beginning of the process that the province went through. I'm trying to figure out how to diplomatically answer that question. I think where it comes from, legislation is trying to that municipalities are given every reasonable opportunity to be making land use decisions that are consistent with policy rather than the politics of the community. So that's where the tests that are now involved in the LPAT's ability to either dismiss an appeal or direct it back to a municipality if they feel that a decision has been made is inconsistent with its official plan and provincial policy, gives that municipality a chance to have a second look, and therefore a greater emphasis on the local opinion related to how the land use matter is resolved.
So I have a couple of questions on that. So the first, relating back to these tests that have to be met, whether a development is consistent or inconsistent with an official plan is to some degree subjective. That's often what happens around this table is you have some people saying it's consistent with the official plan and others that's saying that it is not. So is the idea that you have to make at least an attempt at an argument to qualify for an appeal, or will the LPAT effectively immediately judge whether the argument is true or not, and so you don't even get a chance to appeal?
Your Worship, the validity of the appeal is actually, I believe the LPAT will just be looking at whether you've tried to make the connections to the policies, and then through the actual hearing or mediation process, they would determine whether those connections are appropriate or not and make their decision based on that. So the validity of appeal is really, have you provided the information that connects your argument to those policies and to those tests?
Okay. My second question relates to what happens if the LPAT determines that council did not abide by its official plan, and so it's sent back, and then there's this second opportunity, and then we hold a public meeting. Is the intention there to find some kind of compromise and change the proposal in some way to have a resolution, or is it basically just to repeat the exercise one more time?
Thank you, and through you. So we've been trying to scenario test what that's going to look like, given that it's a brand new process. I think the intention is for council to be given a direction that says from the appeal body that we don't feel that your decision was made in consistency with provincial policy and your own official plan, so therefore have a look. And it's an opportunity for council to rediscuss what that looks like, and whether or not there's an outcome that's different from the original one would depend, I suppose, on the matter and how council felt. I think what the outcome of that is related to whether there's a different decision or a position is maintained. There's the ability to trigger, and this is where we're in part 9 here on the slide. Essentially, if that happens and council maintains its position, there's the opportunity for another appeal of that decision, and then you repeat this process again. So it's giving you sort of a sidebar, but then also an option to go back up to the top and to go through it again and to have the full hearing.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? Councillor Osterhoff.
Thank you. I'm encouraged to see that there's going to be education, and so that component will be for the public, but will it also be for council and planning committee? Probably.
That's correct. So we're trying to identify internal processes. We're having conversations with the clerk's department and legal so that we can start to anticipate, like I said, the scenario building, and that we're prepared for when we receive our first appeal through the new system, that we have some thought put into what that looks like. I think in terms of the education, like I said, this is hundreds of pages of technical legislation, and we read it every day, and half the time I'm like, I need to read it again. So we need to have a lot of conversations about that. And I think that as a municipality, as we start to go through this, as every city is in the exact same position we are in now, it's not unique to Kingston. Everybody's scrambling to try to figure out exactly what this looks like. And some of the information is still forthcoming from the ministry about what the expectations are. We don't even have all of it yet.
Yes.
So
Yes.
there will be a bit of growing pains there. But we are trying to define right now the educational opportunities that we think would be most helpful, for this group, for our customers as well, for any neighborhood associations, and figuring out how to deliver that.
Thank you. That's very good. Last question was, where do you see in the new model cost savings for both parties? Do you see something in there where it might result in less exorbitant costs?
I would say one of the key pieces related to how things will function that is vastly different from the way that the Ontario Municipal Board system was, is that there's a very heavy reliance on the board record or the case file, and that means that there's a very heavy reliance on the staff report that goes to council, even greater than what's been done before, because there are change of rules related to how evidence is offered. There's the ability for hearings to be via teleconference, and that it's the system of having, lawyer cross-examination, which most people find uncomfortable and very adversarial. It's being replaced by something that is much more based on a written record, as opposed to people in person giving evidence the way the previous. So there could be cost savings there potentially as well. But in terms of additional process, there's a lot of additional work for staff to some extent that go into this, if second tiers go into to re-examine, and for members of council, more time for them. So I'm not convinced it's going to be a lot of cost saving overall, but we'll have to see.
Okay, seeing no other questions, thank you very much. Okay, so moving on, are there any petitions to present? Councillor Stroud.
I rise to present a petition that was initially presented at Planning Committee, but of course the rules are that it needs to be presented to Council, so I'm doing that as it's in my district. It reads, it's dated March 2018, and it reads, re-proposed zoning bylaw amendment 143 Beverly Street, City File D14042 2018. We oppose a zoning bylaw amendment to permit the creation of a second unit and construction of a 24 square meter one-story addition on the subject property 143 Beverly Street. This combined structure exceeds the size allowable for the lot size. The current lot would have to be increased by 53% to meet the minimum required lot size. This structure is not compatible with the majority of houses on the street. Do not permit this incongruous development. Please protect the character and community aesthetic of Beverly Street. And it has 2.5 pages of signatures.
Okay, thank you very much. We do have a couple of motions of condolence this evening, moved by Mayor Patterson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Neal, that in the wake of the tragic bus crash on April 6, 2018, the sincere condolences of Kingston City Council be extended to the families and friends of the entire Humboldt Broncos hockey family. Our thoughts and prayers are with the entire community of Humboldt, Saskatchewan during this time of unthinkable loss of life, injury, and trauma. Moved by Mayor Patterson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Neal, that the sincere condolences of Kingston City Council be extended to the family, friends, and colleagues of David Jackson, who passed away on Thursday, April 12, 2018. David Jackson was a longtime Limestone District School Board trustee and chair of the Kingston Housing and Homelessness Advisory Committee. He was a passionate advocate for improving education, and a champion for affordable housing and other important issues, social issues in the community. David's dedication will have a lasting impact in Kingston, and he will be greatly missed. We'll call the vote, please. And that carries. Okay, we have no deferred motions tonight, so we will move on to reports. First up is report number 40 from the CAO.
Moved by Councillor Holland, seconded by Councillor Osanek, that report number 40 from the Chief Administrative Officer, consent, be received and adopted.
So there are 10 clauses. Would anyone like any separations? Councillor Holland?
Thank you. 8, please.
Thank you. Councillor Schell?
9, please.
Okay, seeing no other separations, we will first vote on the balance of the clauses. So clause 1 is the parking bylaw minor amendments, housekeeping amendments. Clause 2, parking bylaw amendments, Princess Division and Berry Streets reconstruction area. Clause 3, release of easements, Cataract Way West neighborhood. Clause 4, award of contract 2019 model year tandem axle plow truck. Clause 5, award of contract, Confederation Basin Marina Dock raising and reconstruction. Clause 6, Confederation Basin and Portsmouth Olympic Harbor leases with the Department of Fisheries and Oceans Canada. Clause 7, splash pad partnership, Kingston East Community Center. And Clause 10, third crossing grant funding agreements. So we call the vote, please. And that carries. Okay, clause 8, award of contract early on child and family centers, City of Kingston and County of Frontenac. Councillor Holland.
Thank you. So two questions. First of all, in looking at the 2 organizations selected, or sort of the idea of the integration of these 2 organizations, looks really good. And I'm just curious about how the curriculum component fits in, or is there one, for example, and where that, who would be overseeing or regulating the curriculum aspect if there is, if that portion is part of the plan that we have to administer?
Mr. Laban.
Through you, Your Worship, certainly that is an expectation of the service manager on this download from the province. We have a position that we already fund in the childcare area of our department that oversees the curriculum for the daycare providers, and we expect that person to also work with the early years programs to ensure they're having integrity to the expectations of the province. So we would expect with the 3, if this is approved, the 3 service providers would be governed by service standards and procedures and expectations so that they're all offering a similar program, whether you're going to the program in Charlotte Lake, Sydenham, or one of the ones in Kingston, that you can expect to have the same level of service and the same curriculum and type of programming no matter where you're receiving the program.
Sorry, first, so then the development of that curriculum, is that ministry developed, and then compliance is kind of our area, I guess, as a service provider?
Through Your Worship, yeah, that's correct. The province has what they call a pedagogy of learning that they've developed as to what the expectations of this program are. But it's certainly, there is an opportunity for local-based implementation, but it is expected that not only can you receive the same service if you're anywhere in Kingston or Frontenac, but the expectation is if you go to an early years center in Napanee or Brockville or Ottawa, you're also receiving the same type of programming.
So then this is more of a hypothetical, but of course you're thinking along these lines. With the provincial election on the horizon and various new proposals for childcare, is that something that, as far as you can tell at this stage, would be easily incorporated or developed in this early years download that you have already worked towards, or would that create something new that we can't really see what that would look like yet? Like, would those services continue to be offered in the way that this plan is projecting?
Mr. Laban?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure if I would be able to speculate appropriately on that. However, my understanding of what's been proposed recently isn't expected to affect early on programming. At this point, the proposals would affect how daycare is funded and other types of things, but I have not heard that early years would be affected by any of the major parties' platforms.
Okay, we will call the vote on Clause 8. And that carries. Clause 9, Community Branding Initiative. Councillor Schell.
Thank you, Mayor Patterson. The intention to bring in a consultant to help formulate this or work on this process?
Commissioner Hurdle.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the intent will be to bring some support in terms of facilitation and also branding expertise, and that's where the budget comes into play.
And is time frame?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, set a specific time frame. We recognize that we do need to bring a number of key stakeholders together. We would like to see something obviously established probably within the next year, but that will depend obviously on how things unfold with the work that we're doing with key stakeholders.
Thank you. And since currently the major brander work has been happening through Tourism Kingston and Kingston Accommodation Partners, how do you see that, the two groups melding together so that we get one consistent message?
For you, Mr. Mayor, so the two organizations will definitely be quite involved, and we've already had a number of conversations with them. The intent of this community branding is not to take away from the work that they've already done, which I think they've done some really good work with Visit Kingston. So we're not talking about replacing that or taking that away. We're talking about bringing all of these brands together and how can we then set a brand for the community collectively.
Great, thank you. Actually, a big task, I think. Thank you.
Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Introducer. I'm really excited to see this forward-thinking proposal come forward today. And I'm looking forward to the results that come back. And I also think it's a great idea, and I think we need to have a brand, and I think that will help promote our city, and it'll be good for economic development and bringing jobs to our city. And I support this, and I think it's a great idea. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. The vote on Clause 9. And that carries. Okay, on to report number 41 from the CAO.
Moved by Councillor Osterhoff, seconded by Councillor McLaren, that report number 41 from the Chief Administrative Officer recommend be received and adopted.
So there's just the one clause, service level agreement with Sustainable Kingston Corporation. Call the vote.
One more vote, please.
And that carries. Report number 42 from the CAO.
Moved by Councillor Condon, seconded by Councillor George, that report number 42 from the Chief Administrative Officer be considered.
Okay, so this is a consider report. So just to remind council that we have two options, in this case with respect to the Kingston East Public Library Service expansion options. So I'm going to look for council to move one of the options. We will debate it. If it passes, then we move on. If it fails, then there's an opportunity for council to move the other option. Councillor Bohm.
Your Worship, and through you, I'd like to put option 2 on the floor, please.
Okay, so option 2 has been moved by Councillor Bohm. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Deputy Mayor Neal. Okay. Councillor Bohm, you have the floor.
Thank you, Your Worship. So essentially, option 2 states that we'll keep the branch where it is, so in its current building, and also we'll put some extra dollars into kind of renovating that building as well as expanding it there. So I know the library board did some consultation. I did some consultation as well, and the polls that I did online were overwhelmingly in favor of keeping it where it is. Actually, some of the comments were even around the lines of, if you have to move it to expand it, just keep it the way it is and just keep it where it is. So it was about 80% easily in favor of expanding where it is or keeping it where it is. So in talking with the community, the identity and the character of the library in the East End and Pittsburgh district is intrinsically linked with that building. So when people go to that library, it feels like part of the community, but it's not just the fact that the library's there, it's that the building's there and the library's part of it. So with that in mind, and I could go on for quite some time about this, I would just ask council to support option 2. It is a win-win. Both options have a lot of costs, and looking at this, we'd still be responsible for that building even if we did move it. So let's put some extra money into it. Let's bring it up to par, and let's expand it where the community wants it. It's a beautiful building. If you haven't been there, I encourage you to go, and we're only going to add to the services there. So I hope that everybody can support this, and I hope it's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Neal.
Thank you. I did some math today. It's been a while, but I realized that I've been on the library board for 23 of the last 27 years, either as a community appointee or as a council appointee. And I remember well when at that time, Pittsburgh Township, with some of their reserve funds in the then Pittsburgh Community Fund, put money forward to make the beautiful library that's there today. And that library won a very prestigious award. And it is a piece of heritage. And I don't know about the rest of council, but I've received multiple, I think I've received one email to say we should move it to the community center, and I've received probably a dozen or so saying we should keep it where it is now. I just have one question for staff, if I could. I know there was some concern expressed about the potential of the third crossing impacting that branch, and that was information that had been shared with the community. Could the commissioner speak to that, if she would?
Commissioner Hurdle.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the report that's attached from Schultz and Zabag does speak to obviously the construction of the third crossing and noise and the regular type of construction impact to dust, those types of things. There's no doubt as well that there will be some increase in traffic flow around the library in the long term once the third crossing is in place, but there is no impact on the actual site, meaning that the library can stay there, function as it is, and expand as well with the third crossing in place.
Great, thank you very much. This, I think, is very much a highly valued municipal asset. It is a piece of heritage. It's something that the good people of Kingston East, but right across the city, people are quite proud of that. And we are, I think, a council and past councils have committed ourselves to the idea of heritage. And yes, sometimes asset management of heritage properties does cost a little bit more than a new build. But I sincerely believe that the people, particularly in Kingston East, but right across the city, value that branch. And I hope that we support that and send a clear message that we're supporting that branch. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you. Questions that just sort of came up. With regards to the difference in prices, how will this impact the budgetary request? So, for example, council has asked that member boards and all that keep it at 2.5% increase. Is this going to break that limit, or is either one of these going to do that? And if so, by how much? Do we know?
Sue Hunt.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, as council is aware, there's capital reserve funds which are populated with the 1% capital that has been our policy for a number of years, and the report indicates that the funding would come from that particular reserve fund, so there would be no incremental tax increase associated with this decision.
Sorry, I was referring to the operational. It says 50,400 versus 76,800 per year in operating costs.
As a growing city, as expanded facilities, as expanded service areas, each year we do have growth in the city, supplementary tax revenue and additional tax revenue. That goes to support agencies and other departments as those services expand. So the amount that is reflected as part of the operating costs in the year that building would be occupied can be absorbed within the forecast that we have.
Wonderful, thank you. So ask, what Ford was a library?
I'm sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, I didn't.
Sorry, was it always a library, or what was it before it became a library?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's a very good question. I would have to say that I do not have the answer to that question.
It was township office. It was an office, township office building.
Thank you. And one last point, if I may. The delegation speaker spoke of difference-making spaces. Can the renovations within the heritage structure still make a difference, making spaces better or equal to at least what the community center could when it's designed for that?
Commissioner Hurdle.
Mr. Mayor, so I do not want to speak for the library representatives. I don't think it's fair for me to do that, but what I can say is that the library board has met and has supported these two options. So I would have to assume that the reason why they supported option 1 and 2 is because they believe that both options can actually work from a programming perspective.
Okay. Councillor Strud.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Councillor Bohm, for listening to your constituents and going the extra mile to ask their opinion on this, and to really flesh out the voice of the people of your area. And I have to say, I also agree with the Deputy Mayor that that's the feedback that I've received as well, that it's overwhelmingly in favor of retaining, which pleased me because as Chair of Heritage, I love to see when people actually cherish a heritage building. That's one aspect that pleased me about this. But I just wanted to point out something that that's not in the costing by the consultant that was hired by the library, and it probably couldn't be, but I just wanted to point it out from experience. Heritage buildings are by nature, they last a long time. They last a very long time. For example, I live in a building that was built in 1850. Now, as far as I can tell, having lived there for 2 years, there has been no work at all put into that building since in the 2 years I've been there, and possibly even for the last 20 years. So the suggestion that old buildings are automatically more expensive, I don't agree that that's necessarily true. It really depends on the building. So in this particular case, from a heritage, I talked to a couple of people that know the building, and they claim that it's in excellent condition for a building of its age, which means that it's already lasted decades. And if we added up the maintenance costs over the decades and divided by the year, it probably is actually cheaper than the community center is going to turn out to be. So it's not necessarily the more expensive option over 30 years. It may be more expensive over the next 5 years by a little bit. The difference is 18% extra cost for option 2 and 12% extra cost for option 1, difference of 6% on the total cost. So I think the difference is insignificant for when compared with the public's request that we maintain this library branch, and I'm happy to support option 2. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We will call the vote. Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Schell.
Thank you, Mayor Penn. Question about option 1. I understand option 1 would require a second floor and an elevator that is currently not budgeted for the community center.
Commissioner Hurdle.
Through Mr. Mayor, that's correct. If the library was added to the community center, we would most likely require a second story to the building. Not only the costs have not been included in the budget for the community center to accommodate that, but we would have to go back to the public for additional public engagement, because so far the public has seen concept with one-story community center, and I think there were a lot of concerns in the community about having a building that would have 2 stories. So we would have to do quite a lot of public outreach and engagement.
Yes, I realized that when I went that the price in option 1 doesn't actually include a number of the capital costs or an elevator and the ongoing maintenance of an elevator. So I'm quite happy to support option 2. I'd like to have facts instead of conjecture about heritage buildings and their cost for upkeep, but it is a lovely building, and I think the last thing we need in Kingston is a heritage building that's empty, because then you've got a whole other can of worms to deal with. It's a beautiful building in a wonderful location, and I think option 2 makes perfect sense. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll call the vote on option 2. And that carries. Report number 43 from Planning Committee.
My apologies, that would be me. Duly moved and seconded. Thank you. Thank you.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Neal, seconded by Councillor Turner, that report number 43 from the Planning Committee be received and adopted.
So we will vote on the clauses separately. So first, we will take the vote for Clause 1, approval of final plan of condominium, 276 to 284 Kingsdale Avenue. Please vote. And that carries. And now Clause 2, approval of an application for a zoning bylaw amendment, 700 Gardeners Road, 965 Cataract Way Woods Drive, 1215 Woodhaven Drive, 1301 Woodhaven Drive, 1138 Highway 15, and 1232 Highway 15. Please vote. And that carries. Report number 44 from the Arts, Recreation, Policies Committee.
It's my pleasure to present report number 44 from Arts, Recreation, and Community Policies Committee for Council's consideration. Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Shell, seconded by Councillor Osanek, that report number 44 from the Arts, Recreation, and Community Policies Committee be received and adopted.
So there are 3 clauses. First clause, partnership with the Limestone Boat and Board Club for a community small craft club and facility in Rotary Park. Clause 2, appointment of members to the Mayor's Arts Awards Nomination Working Group. And Clause 3, appointment of public members to the Public Art Working Group. So we will call the vote, please. And that carries. Okay, we have nothing under Committee of the Whole. Information reports, if you have a question, just raise your hand. Bill 139, the Building Better Communities and Conserving Watersheds Act 2017. Number 2, tender and contract awards subject to the established criteria for delegation of authority for the month of February 2018. And number 3, 2018 municipal debt limits. Okay, no information reports from members of council. Miscellaneous business. Number 1, that as requested by Earth Day Kingston, council proclaim April 22nd, 2018 as Earth Day in the city of Kingston. Moved by Councillor Osanek, seconded by Councillor George. Please vote. And that carries. Number 2, that the resignation of Sherman Hill from Heritage Kingston be received with regret. Moved by Councillor Schell, seconded by Deputy Mayor Neal. Please vote. And that carries. Number 3, that notwithstanding section 3.1.4, subsection 5 of the Illumination of City Facilities Policy, Kingston City Council approved the illumination of City Hall on May 5th, 2018 for the Paint Canada Purple campaign in recognition of World Pulmonary Hypertension Day. Moved by Deputy Mayor Neal, seconded by Councillor Osanek. Please vote. And that carries. Okay, on to new motions. We have one new motion moved by Councillor McLaren, seconded by Councillor Bohm. Whereas Lyme disease is an emerging serious and preventable microbial threat that is now the most common tick-borne illness in Canada, and whereas there are many knowledge gaps in current testing, diagnosis, intervention, and treatment, and whereas the Canadian Institute of Health Research has put out a call to create a Canadian Lyme Disease Research Network with the vision of reducing the impact of Lyme disease on the health of Canadians, and whereas in partnership with Queen's University, KFLNA Public Health, and others, Dr. Kieran Moore, Ministry of Health's proposal to create a national Lyme disease research network will facilitate and support collaboration among Lyme disease stakeholders, create a longitudinal patient cohort and associated biobank, build foundational resources to support collaborative research in the areas of detection, diagnosis, and treatment, develop surveillance and epidemiological tools to inform risk reduction among Canadians, and develop evidence-informed multidisciplinary curricula, training, and knowledge translation tools for Canadian healthcare professionals, medical students, and the general public. Therefore, be it resolved that Kingston City Council enthusiastically support Dr. Kieran Moore's MOH's application in partnership with Queen's University and others to the CHIHR Team Grant Research Network on Lyme Disease entitled a National Research Network on Lyme Disease, and that a formal copy of this motion be shared with the CIHR, care of Dr. Moore, MOH, KFLNA, and Public Health. Councillor McLaren, you.
Thank you. This came out of a meeting we recently had at Public Health in which we were informed of some threats that are going to be hitting Canada, and in particular, of course, it's the Lyme disease that we're talking about. And the particular threat that's going to hit us is that Lyme disease is a continually evolving microbacterial threat to us. But we are using American testing systems that are happening actually south of the Great Lakes, and this creates a divergence in the Lyme disease population in Canada versus the United States, degrading our ability to actually diagnose them. And some estimates are that we're actually missing upwards of 20% of diagnoses because we don't have up-to-date tests for particular strains of Lyme disease. That was the big one that I understood, but as you can see in the whereas clause, there's a whole bunch of other things that are useful in this. And he asked us that if we could help in any way get this to come to here in Kingston, it would be greatly appreciated. And the reason that we're doing this is essentially to add our voice to it. It's a nudge. I know that we can't force anybody to come here, but the point is that if we add our voice to it, it makes it ever so much more likely. And so for those reasons, I'm asking that we support this and that we protect our people through this. Thank you.
Thank you. Call the vote on new motion 1. And that carries. Are there any notices of motion? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, I'll ask for minutes, please.
Moved by Councillor Osanek, seconded by Councillor Osterhoff, that the minutes of City Council meeting number 2018-11 held Tuesday, April 3rd, 2018 be confirmed.
Please vote. And that carries. Okay, there are a number of communications. Is there any other business? Mr. Clerk, ask for bylaws, please.
Councillor George, you're excused for the first 2 bylaw votes, please. Moved by Councillor Osterhoff, seconded by Councillor Turner, that bylaws 3 and 4 be given their first and second reading.
Please vote. And that carries.
Moved by Councillor Osterhoff, seconded by Councillor Turner, that bylaws 3 and 4 be given their third reading.
Please vote. That carries.
Moved by Councillor Osterhoff, seconded by Councillor Turner, that bylaws 1, 2, and 5 through 7 be given their first and second reading.
Please vote. And that carries by a vote of 11-1.
That may have been because somebody voted incorrectly. I can recall the vote if you would like.
Please. I was nodding off, I guess.
Okay, please vote again. And that carries.
Moved by Councillor Osterhoff, seconded by Councillor Turner, that clause 11.34 of bylaw number 2010-1 be suspended for the purpose of giving bylaws 1, 6, and 7 3 readings.
Please vote. That carries.
Moved by Councillor Osterhoff, seconded by Councillor Turner, that bylaws 1 and 5 through 7 be given their third reading.
Please vote. And that carries. Motion to adjourn, please. Moved by Councillor Bohm, seconded by Councillor Turner. Please vote. And we are adjourned. Thank you very much.